The difficulty was how to get Fred down without scaring the man. I knew that if I shouted, he wouldn't wait, but would be out the window and away before Fred could get there. So what I had to do was to go to Fred's room, explain the whole situation quietly to him, and ask him to come down and make himself pleasant. The man was far too busy to pay any attention to me. He was kneeling in a corner with his back to me, putting something large in his bag. I seized the opportunity to steal softly from the room. Fred's door was shut, and I could hear him snoring. I scratched gently, and then harder, till I heard the snore stop. He got out of bed and opened the door. "Don't make a noise," I whispered. "Come on downstairs. I want you to meet a friend of mine." At first, he was quite peevish. "What's the idea, coming and spoil a man's beauty sleep? Get out!" He actually started back into the room. "No, honestly, Fred," I said, "I'm not fooling with you. There's a man downstairs. He got in through the window. I want you to meet him. He's very shy, and I think it would do him good to have a chat with you." "What are you whining about?" Fred began, and then he broke off suddenly and listened. We could both hear the man's footsteps as he moved about. Fred jumped back into the room. He came out carrying something. He didn't say any more, but started to go downstairs very quiet, and I went after him. There was the man, still putting things in his bag. I was just going to introduce Fred when Fred, the silly ass, gave a great yell. I could have bitten him. "What do you want to do that for, you chump?" I said. "I told you he was shy. Now you've scared him." He certainly had. The man was out the window quicker than you would have believed possible. He just flew out. I called after him that it was only Fred and me, but at that moment a gun went off with a tremendous bang, so he couldn't have heard me. I was pretty sick about it. The whole thing had gone wrong. Fred seemed to have lost his head entirely. He was behaving like a perfect ass. Naturally, the man had been frightened with him carrying on in this way. I jumped out of the window to see if I could find the man and explain, but he was gone. Fred jumped out after me and nearly squashed me. Fred's father had come down now, and they were running about. The old man had a light. I followed the trail, and it ended at a large cedar tree, not far from the house. I stood underneath it and looked up, but of course I couldn't see anything in the pitch dark. "Are you up there?" I shouted. "There's nothing to be scared at. It was only Fred. He's an old pal of mine. He works at the place where you bought me. His gun went off by accident, I'm sure. He won't hurt you." There wasn't a sound. I began to think that I must have been mistaken. "He's got away," I heard Fred say to his father, and just as he said it, I caught a faint sound of someone moving in the branches above me. "No, he hasn't," I shouted. "He's up this tree." "I believe the dogs found him, Dad." "Yes, he's up here. Come along and meet him." Fred came to the foot of the tree. "You up there? Come along down." Not a sound from the tree. "It's all right," I explained. "He is up there, but he's very shy. Ask him again." "All right," Fred said. "Stay there if you want to, but I'm going to shoot off this gun into the branches just for fun." And then the man started to come down. As soon as he touched the ground, I jumped up to him. "This is fine," I said. "Here's my friend Fred. You'll like him." But it wasn't any good. They didn't get along together at all. They hardly spoke. The man went into the house, and Fred went after him, carrying his gun. And when we got into the house, it was just the same. The man sat in one chair, and Fred sat in another. And after a long time, some men came in a motor car, and the man went away with them. He didn't say goodbye to me. When he had gone, Fred and his father made a great fuss of me. I couldn't understand it. Men are so odd. The man wasn't a bit pleased that I'd brought him and Fred together, but Fred seemed as if he couldn't do enough for me for having introduced him to the man. However, Fred's father produced some cold ham, my favorite dish, and gave me quite a lot of it, so I stopped worrying over the thing. As Mother used to say, don't bother your head about what doesn't concern you. The only thing a dog needs to concern himself with is the bill of fare. Eat your bun, and don't make yourself too busy about other people's affairs. Mother was, in some ways, of a narrow outlook, but she had a great fund of sterling common sense.